I did a lot. I looked into this about the Jesus color thing, and I found out more about him than I even imagined. And a couple of things is that the name Jesus was a common name when you were born. There were a whole bunch of people named Jesus. Did y'all know that? And I always thought there was only one named Jesus, except the Mexicans, and they called him Jose. And that, Huzu or whatever. But I didn't know that during those days there were a whole bunch of, the name Jesus was a common name. And also, it's short for, and I may be saying this wrong, it's short for, what's that name they call Jesus? Yahweh. Yeshua. Yeah, one of those things. So Jesus is just short for Yahshua. And I never knew that. I thought that name meant such a holy name, I was almost afraid to say it. Because they made it seem so holy, I didn't know it was a common name that a whole bunch of people call that. And then also, in the research it said, yeah, Bill?
I think it was supposed to be Joshua, actually.
One of those names.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, especially when I moved out here to California, I started going to church, and you would hear the Christians say Jesus' name, and it seemed so holy that you were almost afraid to say it. You didn't want to make a mistake with it. But the name itself is not that holy. They just make it that way in their own imagination. It was a common name. And also in the research, can they sit down there? Oh, okay, somebody back there? Yeah, okay. Shoot the baby. We about to have an execution. Also, did you know that the name wasn't as holy as they say the name?
No.
Did you used to think that as the other kind of Christian?
I never thought. I never thought about that. I thought the name God was like super holy, but I never really thought about the name Jesus.
Have you heard the Christians go, oh, holy name, holy, holy?
Yes.
Right?
Often.
Yeah, they be like worshiping the name. When he was growing up, it was just a name. Everybody was named Jesus. Also, okay, you can get it back. What? How come y'all out of order today? Everything's so off. It's distracting.
If they pick it up their things, then I'll be taking them to them.
So what?
It's the heat.
You blame it on the heat. Also, when Jesus was, according to the reports, by the way, things have changed down through the years. People are still the same. There's always been this conversation. And history has been rewritten and rewritten and rewritten until nobody really knows what color he really was. They don't really know. And so when Jesus was walking the earth, even his mother and other people didn't know him as Jesus. Well, they knew his name as Jesus, but they really didn't know who he really was. They didn't know he was the Jesus, right? They just thought, they knew he was a smart guy and that he was wise, but that's about it. They didn't know that he was here to save people and to die and come back. They had no idea. He was just a wise man walking around the country or wherever he was, preaching, and they just knew he was, even his mother didn't know who he really was, the real reason. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And the reason I bring this up because we have been made to see Jesus in the wrong way. we have a false image of Jesus, and that's why we believe that he can't be our brother, or we can't be as wise as he was, because he was Jesus, and he had a special mission, and that's to come and sacrifice for us. And that is and was important, but it wasn't so that we'll be left out in the cold. But the world have set a bad example for us as to who he was and his purpose. And because we live in this image of how he was, it's hard for people to overcome that image. It's like, I never imagined Jesus not having long hair, but it shows that he didn't always have long hair. He cut his hair once in a while, and some suspect that he even cut his beard off and all that. We all do. You know, through the years, we have bald heads, we have long hair, we have short hair, we have beards. Jesus had the same thing going on, but I never imagined him as being like that. I just imagined Jesus, the first picture I saw of him, with the long hair, good hair, in a white robe, and that's it. Whereas I never had any other image of him. And I now realize that all the images that I have been wrong. They have been wrong. And also in this report, the research I was doing, it said that Jesus was an individual, meaning that he didn't try to be like anyone, he didn't act like anyone else, he didn't take on anyone else's personality, he was himself. He was himself, and if you didn't like it, he didn't care. He just spoke the truth and lived his life, and he wasn't trying to imitate anyone else. Most people are not like that. The hardest thing in the world for the average person to do today is to be themselves. They do not want to stand alone. They do not want to be themselves. They always look for something, another form of identity to hook up to. Anybody like that? You afraid to stand alone?
I think I used to be. I used to be.
And why?
And why? I think because it was just easy going with the crowd, and maybe
Speak up a little bit.
I think it was just easy going with the crowd, just not thinking for myself. I think made it easy to just not be myself, my real self.
And what good did it do you to identify with the crowd?
No good.
Except for, was it really easy, or was it still rough? It was just everybody around you suffering, so it didn't matter.
I think it was, yeah, I guess it was easy, but now that I look back, I can see that I wasn't, I guess, like fulfilled in a way.
Yeah.
You know, like I was just living a lie, pretty much.
Some of the most miserable people on earth are those who are afraid to stand alone, because they don't go through anything. They don't deal with life. They all just validate each other. Oh, how's your day? Oh, my day is all right. I know what you mean. They can't encourage each other because they're getting their identity from each other instead of overcoming the identity. They're just identifying with something of money. There's a group of young men coming up now, YouTubers, I think. They seem to be about getting women, and the way they're getting the women is by getting money. You know, raising a lot of money and having a lot of cars and airplanes and things like that. And they think that that is the way that's supposed to be, and that's how you're supposed to get a woman. But that's not going to work. It's not going to do anything. They're still going to have the fear. They're still going to have the doubt. They're going to have the worry. They will not find peace on the inside. Nothing on the outside. And another thing, nothing on the outside going to set you free. Do y'all know that?
Yes.
Really, there's nobody or nothing that can make you free. And you got to be willing, in order to be free, you got to be willing to, first of all, stand alone, and then face what's going on inside of you. The fears. Some people still, even that listen to me on the radio or come to church, they still think that whatever they're feeling on the inside has something to do with somebody on the outside, or some situation or some circumstance. And the way you feel on the inside has nothing to do with what's happening on the outside of you. I don't care what it is. What it is. If you're feeling something about it, it's something wrong with you on the inside. The kingdom of heaven is on the inside, and that was Jesus' message, that the kingdom of heaven is on the inside. And so, and not outside, but most people never going to get that, because just think about this. You have to face yourself. That's not easy. You're in a prison, you're living in the darkness, and the only way out of that prison is that you got to face yourself. Who want to do that? It's easier, it seems, to look outside and blame someone else than to face yourself. That's why only a few people overcome. Because most people don't want to look at themselves. Only a few are going to overcome this. The hardest thing in the world for people to do, the average person, is to really see that they're in a cave and stop going around in that cave making the same mistakes over and over again, but decide to come out of it. Because can't no other human being help you out of it. And I know I see some hand, but let me just say, concerning his color, the only time they, according to the information I've seen, they recognize when Jesus died and then he came from the grave, his mother and other people went to the grave and they saw him, but they didn't recognize him. He told them, "I'm Jesus, this is me." They're like, "What the?" And he was not color at all. Well, he was bronze, but it was from, it was a glow of light. The light shined in him. He was all light once he came from the grave, not while he was walking the earth. They couldn't tell who he was walking the earth. But when he came from the grave, he was light, and his Mary did it. He was like, "This is me, what the?" But they didn't recognize him because they didn't know who he really was walking the earth. And those who wake up, that's how you're going to be attacked too. They're not going to know who you are. They're going to see something, know something is different. Oh, that's a wise person. That's but they're not going to know you represent the Father, because the darkness hates the light in you. And you won't walk around thinking that either, that I represent the Father. If you think that you're representing the Father, then you're not. But the world they won't recognize you who you really are. But only a handful is going to find that. So Jesus and when they say his hair they said his hair and his face were bronze or whatever, that came from the grave. That wasn't his color. That's from because that's the light that he had when he came out of the grave. And that's the same light that's going to guide you once you die and be born again. It's the same light. And once you start seeing this, it's just going to blow your mind to grow in the understanding of it. You are not fear. You are not doubt. You're not worry. You're not a person of loneliness and sadness, and you're none of those things. But you got to be willing to you got to be all in. Whatever. I know that the condition I'm in ain't working. It's not it. Whatever it takes, I'm overcoming this. If you lose the world, because you really don't have the world anyway. But you got to be willing to lose it. In order to have a life, you must be willing to lose a life. Meaning that you got to completely die from this false life. And that's the message that Jesus had. And ain't no way around it. You got to die from it. But you're not going to die from it until you can see you. It ain't about color. It's about nothing outside at all. And no one can make you feel any kind of way. It's already in you. So you got to stop blaming. You got to become your own man, your own woman, and just live your life. It's going to be an amazing life we live that way too. So when situations happen, let them happen. And if you feel something about the situation, be glad that it happened so you can see what's wrong with you. Because if it's not in you, it can't happen to you. You're not who you think that you are. Just as Jesus is not who we thought he was. He definitely sacrificed and became that example so we can overcome. But we've been lied to about who he is. And we have this false image. And just because we can quote the Bible and repeat what somebody else said, and it's just words. You could go down and say, I got saved, right? That's just a word. It doesn't mean you got saved at all. You just got the word, that's it. The intellect, what I've noticed about the intellect is dumb. You know that? The intellect cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. The intellect is on the lower level. The kingdom of heaven is up here. The intellect is here. And you use the intellect to navigate on this earth, meaning to get a job, to run your business with, to run your family, make dinner. The intellect is just for that alone. It cannot understand God. It cannot understand at all. So the people that quote the Bible and preaching about him and all, they don't know him. They're just preaching about him intellectually, but they have not changed. They still have the same old nature. We need a brand new nature. We have to give up the old car and get a brand new nature, and only God can cause that to happen. And you can't even imagine what that is until it starts happening to you. So don't even try to imagine the new nature. What is the nature of God? You can't figure it out. That makes sense a little bit? Everybody needs a new nature. Anyone that has anger has a nature of the devil. Satan is your daddy. Your nature is screwed up because you have an evil nature. Look how evil human beings are today. Human beings are evil because they have the nature of evil. Yes, sir.
Oh, you were talking about the intellect.
Did you have your hand?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Sir. Ecclesiastes 1:18 says, when you increase of knowledge, you increase of sorrow.
Speak up.
Ecclesiastes 1:18 says, when you increase knowledge, you increase sorrow.
Absolutely. The most unhappy people are the so-called smartest one.
Yeah.
The more degrees they have, the more unhappy they are.
Yeah.
They're miserable on the inside, but they have the degree.
Absolutely.
That is so. So you just know the intellect is just to be used to work on the earth. It's not to live by. You cannot live by the intellect. Not real life. You have a fake life,
And then,
but not the real deal.